Hey, it's Nay, and welcome to Hey Nay. Um, First, I just want to say that I feel like I'm a little bit of a mess right now, but I'm usually a little bit more put together. But you guys know me; I could be chilled and you know whatever this is. Okay, let me just go into the topic because I don't even know how to explain. So the topic is television and dating. Here are the questions that the Hey Nay writers gave me. Should you watch? First question is really funny. Should you watch TV while eating dinner? Yes, it makes sense. I always, if I'm not having like a dinner at a dinner table, I'm always eating and watching TV. That's just obvious. But anyway, that was more of a joke. But here's the real questions. Should you try to show your interest in your significant other's favorite? Should you try to show interest in your significant other's favorite shows? And what if it's The Bachelorette? Okay. Yes, you should definitely show interest in what your significant other likes to watch, because I do think that the type of shows that one watches sort of shows you a little bit more about them. You sort of know a little bit, sort of what they're into, or sort of the type of person they are. And I'm not saying just because they're watching like a horror show or something that means that they're like creepy or anything. No, it just means that you know they like scary stuff, or they like to go do scary things. So that kind of gives you an indication of the type of person they are. They yeah, they are. Am is they are. They are. Anyway, but yeah, I think that's good. Um, and I think you would also hope that your significant other would do the same thing in return. I think that you would hope that your significant other would show interest in some things that you like to watch. I think because it's sort of you share something, you have something to, um, it's like, hey, I'm watching this for you, and now I like it because, it kind of shows like I'm liking something that you like, I'm taking an extra mile for you. I hope that makes sense. And if it's The Bachelorette, which is, I'm gonna be completely honest, that is a show I do not watch, and I have certain opinions about it. But if that's something that your significant other watches, feel, give it a try. You don't even have to be like watch all the time. But if she's watching it, or excuse me, he or she's watching it, then you could watch it with them. Especially if you're there. Is it really that big of a deal? I mean, if it conflicts with some sort of other show or game or something, then a discussion needs to happen. What's going to be DVR'd, what's not. But I think that's something that you two can work out, which is very minor and very small, a small minor thing that shouldn't really cause any actual hiccups in a relationship. But I do want to talk about, since we are talking about shows, I don't watch The Bachelorette, but I do watch this show called Coupled, which is, I call it one of my summer shows right now. Coupled is on Fox. The host is Terrence J. And the premise of the show is that these women, I don't remember how many women, maybe 12. Yeah, I think I'm going to say 12. There's about 12 women on this island, and they're in this area called the bungalows. And the bungalows is where they stay. Then, on a plane, every day or every other day, a man comes on a plane, and the women are trying to vie for his affections. The man comes and he meets all the women for about 5 minutes, about a few minutes. The women then, while the man's back is turned, decide whether or not they want to go left, back to the bungalows, or right to the tiki bar, in which they get a chance to possibly be with that man. Okay, after that is over, the man goes to the tiki bar to see the women, if there's any, at the tiki bar. And out of those women, he decides two which he wants to get to know more. And the rest go back to the bungalows. He takes those two, they go on to the couple's island, On the couples, what a couples villa is what they kind of call it. There's two sections of the couples villa. There's the temporary side and the permanent side. So they go on the temporary side in the meantime. On the temporary side, they are, they spend like, they each have sort of like a date. The man sort of has a date with each woman. And he gets to know them and everything. Then at the end, he decides who he wants to, pursue a relationship with. And he lets Terrence know and everything, and he announces, and he chooses one woman. Then he and that woman go to the permanent side and stay there and get to know each other and do several different activities and exercises and stuff like that, while that other woman goes back to the bungalows to wait for the next guy to come. Now, the show I thought was pretty basic, and I was like, oh, this is great. But there's some twists. There's some twists in the show. And the one twist I just want to mention, which I really respect it, and I'm glad that Fox did this, was that as there becomes more and more couples on the permanent side of the couples villa, they kind of get tested with each other, and they start to realize, maybe this is not the person I want to be with. And if that is true, the woman can say, they can reach out to Terrence and say, I do not want to be with this person anymore. I don't think it's working out. And what happens is that the guy, they both have to leave the couple's villa. The guy goes back home alone. And the woman goes back to the bungalows to wait for a new guy. So I think that's cool. It kind of gives the women more power again. Because to me, it kind of seemed like the men had all the power and like the women are vying for his affection. But, the man has to also, keep the affection of the woman. You know what I mean? Because she can end the relationship at any time she wants to. And there's been a whole bunch of other twists and turns in the show, which has been, to my surprise, shocking. My sister and I both watch it, and it's very, very interesting. And I must say that I think that a lot of people can learn something from a show like that, because it's not a typical dating show. It really isn't. And I thought it was interesting because all these people seem to be very qualified, have very qualified positions and careers in their lives. And seem to be of some sort of stature. And I thought it was interesting to see how they interact with each other, as well as how they change when they form these relationships. So I think that's a good show to watch. I think that's a good show to watch to learn a little bit more. And that's my recommendation for TV for this summer. There's about 3 episodes left, I think, and it comes on Tuesdays at 9 p.m. on Fox. Yes, I think so. And that's Eastern Standard Time, U.S. So check your local listings. Okay. The next question. Should you try to find a common TV show that you both be interested in and watch together? What are the benefits of this? This is a great question, and that's kind of what we were talking about before. Yes, you should find a show that you both like to watch. The benefit is that you guys are able to talk about it more. You're able to have more communications, hear different opinions, and sort of understand it. I know people who watch, I know couples who watch Game of Thrones together, and they sort of, bounce ideas of each other, which I think is great. I know couples that watched Scandal together, and it's interesting to get both. And for that couple, it was like a male and a female. So it's interesting to get both a male and a female's point of view on it. I know couples that watch The Walking Dead together, and I think that's great. You watch something that you both enjoy. You both are like excited and eager for it, and it puts you guys both in a good mood. I think those are great benefits. You guys end up being in a good mood together, and you get to talk and vent with each other. I think there's nothing but benefits for it. I don't think there's nothing that can really harm. If for some reason the two of you disagree about what happened to a certain character, I think that just calls for a productive discussion. You know what I mean? I think that allows you guys to just talk more. I think anything that allows you to communicate more is a positive thing. And I think watching TV shows together is a huge indicator of that. Now, the next thing I want to do is talk about this article I read. I know the time is kind of going, but this article is really cool. So, this article is by Hilary Gamble and Leslie R. Nelson. It says, what young men and women expect from their sexual relationships is influenced in different ways by the television programs they watch, according to a new study in Communication Monographs. Hilary Gamble and Leslie R. Nelson studied the effect of relationship television, that is, programs which feature romantic relationships and themes on 18 to 25-year-olds. Their starting point was the different messages that television programs send out, and the concern that emerging men and women may have incompatible sexual expectations for their current and future relationships as a result. As the pair observes, in essence, television programs communicates to viewers that the male sexual role involves active pursuit of sexual activity to prove one's masculinity, whereas the female sexual role involves objectifying oneself for men's enjoyment and being virtuous by not being sexual. Recognizing these stereotypes and double standards is important, as research shows that younger viewers use television to develop their own sexual scripts. Add to this the fact that men and women interpret information about sex differently, as well as have different sexual strategies and attitudes based on their own reproductive needs, and a very complicated picture of potential sexual expectation emerges. To fine-tune this picture, Gamble and Nelson asked over 200 students to indicate how often they watched certain shows and how realistic they thought they were. They also asked to them answer a series of questions about how their experiences in relationships compared with their expectations. To their surprise, they found that as women's relationship television viewing increased, so too did their expectations for sexual interaction in their relationship. On the other hand, men's expectations for sexual interaction in their relationship stayed consistent. This finding was surprising given the literature that says women should be less concerned with sex than men and should expect more intimacy in their relationships. Women's sexual expectations may be more influenced by their television viewing than men because so many messages about sex on television relate to men's sexual insatiability. The ceiling effect may also account for the differences between young men and women's expectations. Men reported higher sexual expectations in relationships compared to women. Therefore, it may have been more difficult for men's relationship television viewing to predict any additional sexual expectations over and above those that have formed from other sources. Women's reported sexual expectations had room to vary, and the relationship television viewing was able to predict some of this variance. Gamble and Nelson's research provides important insight into how young people's attitudes and expectations about sex develop. Their results suggest that relationship television may actually reduce the difference between men and women's sexual expectations in relationships if only they could agree on which television shows to watch. And I just want to, first of all, that article is amazing. I love it. I love that they did this study. I think it was great. I think it was interesting to compare expectations to what they're reviewing, expectations in their own personal lives to what they're reviewing on television, and I think that's great. I think it's huge. It's huge, and I thought it was interesting hearing what was said. You know, I think what I think what we view does affect us personally sometimes. You know, I think we may necessarily know it, but sometimes it does. I must say that sometimes it does. And especially when it's relationships, because we can't help but, you know, try to relate to the character, because there's so many characters on television that there's at least one you can relate to. So I think that's kind of normal in this sense. And I think a lot of us, especially in this generation, so I want to say millennials and any, you know, people after the millennials, I don't know what we call them, whatever, but even teens that are growing up now and stuff like that, television has become a little bit more desensitized and a little bit more uncensored. So a lot of people's first, you know, first view of sexual experiences and sexual information is coming from these television shows. They form the foundation, the premise of what their expectations are sexually in a relationship. And I think it's interesting. So, for example, if someone is watching, um, if a teenager was watching Californication, um, and that's their first show that, involves sex, then a lot of what they expect may come from that show. So I think I think that was interesting. I think it's cool to see. Whether that's positive or negative is, I think it depends, and it's kind of what they were saying at the end. It's sort of, I guess it depends on the show. So great study. But anyway, I don't want to keep you guys any longer. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I hope you look more into the article and look more into what I was saying. And, if you have a significant other, watch a show together. If you don't, watch a show by yourself. Just watch TV. That's what I'm endorsing, television. But I also want to say that there is a small possibility that there may not be a Hey Nate episode next week. I'm trying my best to make sure that there is, but there's a small possibility that there may not be. But otherwise than that, subscribe, like, share, love, and remember to always start your day off with a hey. Goodbye.